Hey everybody, how's it going? Connor here with another Connor's English Corner. Today we're going to be talking about Love Live Sunshine, like a month after its release. Yay! No, so I think this is super relevant. Not even, like, intentional that I'm recording this, like, as soon as Kit King over at Burn1 posted his video, which I haven't actually watched yet. But, no, so this is one that I've had made for a while and just haven't had a chance to record. But here we go. Love Live Sunshine for BCS 18, sort of what it's going to be looking like in the meta. I know everyone is expecting this to be a real big deck. A lot of the teams for trios have been playing it as their third member alongside like AOT and Sword Art. So I know everyone is really hyped on this deck. So here we go. Table of contents here. I sort of just have like the important cards, or not even important. Important might be an overstatement. A lot of the like playable cards, I guess, broken down, sort of just separated out by what role they fit into in your deck. Most of the ones that aren't really going to see as much play, I'll just sort of skim over, and I'll go into a little more detail on the ones that I think are important. Then I've got some sample deck lists and just a sort of meta placement overview. So, here we go. So starting with our advantage combos and advantage engines. Most of these are going to be like our level 1 climax combos. First we have the Aozora Jumping Heart Chika Takami from the first set. So this is the main level 1 combo that everyone's been running prior to the extra booster. A lot of people are still running it after. If all your characters are music, it becomes a level 1 bomb, and when it reverses its opponent with the climax in play, you can choose a character in your waiting room, return it to hand. So it's just a simple on-reverse salvage, but being a bomb, it has nice synergy where it can just blow up any level 1 and get a salvage off of it. And the climax is a red stock soul. This one, newer from the Trial Deck Plus, is just a simple on-reverse search your deck for a music character, put it in hand. Combos with a gate trigger. I don't think we'll see as many people playing this one, but it is a budget option that gives you selective advantage. It's one of the few like actual selective advantage engines, which is why I have included it in here. Next we have Mijuku Dreamer Ruby Kurosawa. I think this is sort of the second big climax combo that people have been leaning towards besides the Chika. So this one is climax combo on attack. If Mijuku Dreamer is in your climax area, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's music, you put it into your hand. If not, it stays where it is. And when this becomes reversed, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's music, you can pay 1 to return this to your hand. So it recycles itself when it dies, which is a plus in and of itself. But it also has the climax combo to give you another plus. It's a very low quality plus, but you're basically getting 2 cards out of this for 1 stock every time. The top check is also relevant if you crash it with a lot of your other cards, which we'll see when we get to those. As far as the climax itself goes, there are 3 different choices for the climax. So the main one, the yellow one that's on the same color as it, is a +2 soul. The red one is a split 2k1, which is sort of a climax type that we don't see too often, where you choose 2 of your characters, give them 2,000 power and a soul. And then the blue one is a draw trigger. So pretty typical things. You'll usually see this alongside the +2 soul, because it gives this deck its sort of unique, not really unique, but the good ability to push for damage aggressively throughout the entire game. Next we have Mirai Ticket Daya Kurosawa. So this is when you play a climax. This gains 1500, and it has an on-reverse combo. When it reverses battle opponent, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 level 1 or higher cards from among them, reveal them, put them in your hand, and put the rest in the waiting room. So this could be a potential +2, since you get to check top 2, and you could add them both if they're both level 1 or higher. One of the climax, so again, multiple climaxes here that have the same name. The yellow one that's off color is a return trigger, and the blue one that is on color is a gate trigger. You'll usually see this with the gate, just because gates add a somewhat of a chance of recurring your level 1 combo by triggering the gate and getting to resolve it again. And it's also on color, so less strain there as far as trying to get into like a multicolor level 1 game. So of note here, the only one that does not need to reverse is this Mijuku Dreamer Ruby. So that's another sort of benefit going for it. So next we've got our utility. I sort of have utility separated off. In some sets it might separate a little more detailed. There's not really any special effects that Sunshine has, so I just got it separated into brainstorms and other things. So here's our brainstorms. This is a spammable brainstorm, where you search for music and discard a card for each climax you hit. Other ability is plus 500 power when you play an act ability, which includes its brainstorm. So I guess this has synergy with like 2k counters and stuff, but the deck doesn't really have a lot of things it wants to be like protecting with counters at level 1. So it usually ends up being not too impactful. Next we have Aozora Jumping Heart Riko Sakurauchi. When one of your music characters is reversed, choose a character and it gains 500. And it has a pay 1, rest 2 characters, reveal 4. For each climax, you choose a character in your waiting room and return it to hand. This is one of the more popular options for Brainstorm, since it is selective plussing from your waiting room. It does have to rest 2, which we'll see is a little difficult in some of the Sunshine builds, but usually not like a huge problem. But it can be a downside sometimes. Next, from the Trial Deck Plus, we have Happy Party Train Chikatakami. So this is on play, reveal top. If it's music, put it in your hand, and then discard 1. And then there's a pay 1 self-tap, draw Brainstorm. So you don't get selective advantage, but it does plus, and it is a hand filter on play. So I know this one's seeing some play at like 1 to 2 copies in some Japanese lists, just because it's a hand filter. Which is kind of neat. It's a hand filter on a Brainstorm, where the hand filter is not tied specifically to the Brainstorm effect. I'm not convinced on this being actually good, but it's worth noting. Next we have Mirai Ticket Hanamaru Kunikida. So whenever any of your characters trigger check a climax, you give a character 2,000 power until end of turn, which is strangely relevant at some points in the game. And the Brainstorm effect is a pay 1 self-tap. For each climax you reveal, you salvage a yellow character. So if your deck can focus on a lot of yellow characters, being self-tap is very beneficial in the deck. And again, it's selective and it's plussing. So pretty good. It does have the sort of downside where a lot of your characters need to be yellow, but in decks that run, such as the Ruby Kurosawa level 1 combo, which is yellow, you get good targets, and you can just brainstorm into those, and sort of go from there. Next, we have the Mijuku Dreamer Daya Kurosawa. It gives your front middle character plus 500, and it is a pay 1, rest 2 characters, and for each climax you draw 2, discard 1. So if decks are running events, or you really want to build a Brainstorm and draw into your climax, this is your option. Not selective, but it is better dig than the self-tap draw Brainstorm gives you, and it's also got a hand filter tied to the Brainstorm, so you can do it after you've just played the character. It does have the downside of resting 2 characters and not being selective, but again, each of these Brainstorms sort of serves their own role. They're all sort of unique in what they accomplish for you, so you can sort of pick and choose to your liking. Alright, so as far as other utility cards go, at level 0, these should be in level order, I believe. We have Yohane-sama's Little Demon number 4, Ruby Kurosawa. This is just on play, pay 1, discard 1, search your deck for a music character. Typical drop searcher. However, in this deck that doesn't really have like Riki clones or anything like that, having a selective grab a card from deck can be good sometimes. Especially with the lack of search Brainstorms as well, with the spammable one being our only search Brainstorm. Next we have Koini Naritai Aquarium Yo Watanabe. It's a level 0 bomb, and when it goes from stage to waiting room, you can pay 2 to salvage a music character. So, very simply, it's a bomb that replaces itself, which is a plus. That is good card effects, realistically. It's a little stock heavy, being like pay 2 instead of, say, pay 1, clock 1, or anything else. It's a little stock heavy. The deck, most of the Sunshine builds right now want to run not very many level 0s, so you might not be able to field enough characters to get the stock comfortably. M-bombs being a 1-for-1 trade aren't the greatest thing, especially since this bomb does not deny like on-death effects, whereas like a stock bomb or clock bomb would. So it's not great, but it is a decent card profile that gives you a plus. Here we have Aozora Jumping Heart Daya Kurosawa. On play, reveal top. If it's music, add it to hand, discard 1, so generic hand filter. And when it goes from waiting room to... When it goes to waiting room from stage, I don't know why I just... Yeah, okay, I can't read apparently. When it goes to waiting room from stage, pay 1, put the top card of your deck into your clock, draw a card. So this is sort of the cost that I was saying would be better on the Yo, but this one, instead of giving you a salvage, only gives you a draw, which is not quite as good. It can draw you into climaxes, which the Yo cannot get, but that is not very consistent, so I don't think it's too much of an upside there. Just sort of gives you a random card when it dies. So it still replaces itself, still a hand filter. Here we have Daya Kurosawa. This is sort of a unique card that I don't think any of the decks really want to play, but very unique and worth mentioning since not many of these exist, especially in English. It is a global plus 500 power to all your music characters, and whenever your opponent uses a Brainstorm ability, if they hit a climax on it, you may draw a card. If you do, choose a card in your hand, put it in your waiting room. So you get sort of a hand filter whenever your opponent hits their Brainstorm, which isn't really like too much of a way to deter your opponent from brainstorming, but it gives you a little bit of benefit out of them brainstorming, I guess. And it's a global 500. Though, like I said, not many of the Sunshine games care about the power early, so, you know, not too great. Here we have Capture Stance Kanon Matsuura. When it goes from stage to waiting room, you can look at the top card of your deck and leave it on top or bottom. And when one of your other characters is put into the waiting room from stage, if this is in the back stage, you can send this to waiting room. If you do, return that character to its previous stage position as rest. So some nice synergy between the effects here, where you can sack the Kanon off to save a character, and that triggers the Scry ability, so you can sort of control your draw for next turn. There's also the option you have of playing over this in like your main phase to get a Scry, which is useful with some of your effects. It seems like just a bad minus, but it is useful with some of your effects. And this can save your like early plays or whatever if they get killed off. So, pretty good card. It was good enough to get restricted in Japanese, so it's noteworthy for sure. Next we have from the Trial Deck Plus, Now Then Where Shall We Go, Chika Takami. This is on attack, pay 1, discard 1, search your deck for a music character. So very similar to the Ruby Drop Searcher, but this one's on attack. Just gives you a different timing. It allows you to pay out stock mid-battle phase in case you trigger climaxes, but that is about the only real benefit. It's also red instead of yellow, if that's important to you. Here we have Do Your Rubesti, Ruby Kurosawa, Ganba Ruby. So this is a bond to the level 1 Daya combo that I showed. You pay 1 stock to bond, and it can rest itself to give that specific Daya Kurosawa plus 2,500 power until end of turn. Which, since that Daya is an on reverse combo, 2,500 power can be relevant. You play this with the Daya, otherwise you don't play this. I think that's pretty obvious. Next we have Aim to Shine Hanamaru Kunikida. So the first effect is the same as the Capture Stance Kanon, where it can save a character. The second one is a bond to a level 2 that I'll show later. It's a clock bond. The clock bond part's not too important. If you play this card, you're playing it for the save effect, and you're playing it because you're playing the Yellow Brainstorm, and the Yellow Brainstorm can't salvage the Kanon, but it can salvage the Hanamaru, so that's relevant. And if you're playing that Brainstorm and want a saver, this one might be an option for you. Next we have Escaping Reality Daya Kurosawa. So this is also a drop searcher, but not for music. This one drop searches for blue on attack, which isn't terribly great because there's not a whole lot of blue cards that you play in the deck most of the time. If you're playing like a Daya level 1 game, this can grab your Daya level 1 combo, which is noteworthy. However, this one is also beginning of Encore Step. If you have no other front row rested characters, you can pay 1 to rest this card. So this also can save itself for a stock. So it's a nice like plus on top of your drop search, which is why I think the drop search is restricted to blue instead of music, just to sort of a downside there. But it's a nice plusing 0 that gives you the added potential utility, especially if you're in a deck that plays more blue. Moving into level 1 utility options, we have Koe ni Naritai Aquarium Ruby Kurosawa. So on play, you can discard 1, check top 4, add a music character from among them, reveal it, put it in hand, put the rest in waiting room. Typical Winter Moment Akatsuki style effect. Really good for hand filtering and milling through decks. The second effect is a Climax combo with a return trigger. When you place the Climax, you can pay 1 and sack this level 1 off into your waiting room to choose the Aozora Jumping Heart Ruby Kurosawa, which is the same 2/2 that Hanamaru Saver bonds to, in your hand, and put it on the stage position that this card was on. So it turns itself into a 2/2 for a stock, and a -1. But the Hanamaru bonds to it, and can save the 2/2 if it dies for some reason. We'll get to the 2/2 a little later, but normally you're not playing this combo because you have better Climax combos to be playing. Here we have a Mijuku Dreamer Hanamaru Kunikida. Continuous during your turn, all your other music characters gain 1,000, and pay 2, rest this card. Look at top 2, put 1 in your hand, put the rest in waiting room. This can grab Climaxes from top 2. That's noteworthy. It's a plus. It is a plussing engine. And it's a global 1K. The global 1K is usually not terribly relevant, but with on-reverse combos, 1K can be good. We know this from the 1-0 Eren in Attack on Titan, that's a global 1000. That card's important. So if you're playing reverse combos, this card can be good, and can get your Climax, which is noteworthy. I think this card's really, really cool in, like, Daya builds and stuff. Or especially in, like, the Happy Party Train Kanon build with the on-reverse search. So here, this is I have this listed as a utility card, but this card is really just one of the most important cards in the deck, no matter what build you're playing. Mirai Ticket Riko Sakurauchi. It is a level assist, 500 times level to the characters in front of it, and has Act, put a card from your hand into your waiting room and rest this card. Reveal the top card of your deck, choose a level X or lower character in your waiting room, return it to your hand. X is the level of the revealed card. So this is a costless hand filter. You'll always get something. Even if you reveal a Climax, you get to salvage a level 0. So you can just discard like dead zeros and stuff, really. And worst case scenario, you get them back and know what the top card of your deck is. If it's a Climax, you can Brainstorm, get a plus. Otherwise, you know what you're triggering, so you can sequence your attacks better. Knowing what you're triggering is incredibly important, given the other cards that interact with this Riko, and we'll see those when we get there. Alright, so moving into attackers. So these are basically just your beaters, things that you're putting on the stage with the sole intent of attacking. They're not really doing a whole lot else for you. They might have other effects. These are going to be like oversized zeros and stuff like that, too. So, at level 0, we have Aozora Jumping Heart Yoshiko Tsushima. This is on attack, you give one of your characters 500 power, and at the beginning of the opponent's attack phase, you can put the top card of your deck into your waiting room. If it's music, you can move this card to an open position of your center stage. So this is just a standard music mill runner that pumps power on attack, so it's only 2k instead of the 2.5 that a normal mill runner would be. But this is a very good plussing 0. Most Sunshine lists don't play events, so every card in your deck's a hit, apart from Climaxes. So it's a really good plussing 0. Also, since it runs, it can dodge on reverse effects and things like that. We have Koe ni Naritai Aquarium Mari Ohara. That's a 002k. If you have one or fewer other characters, this gains 15. And if you have one or fewer other characters, all your other characters gain 15. So the ideal play here is playing Mari with one other character exactly, so that she's a 35 and your other character gains 15. If you have two of these on board as your only zeros, they're both 5Ks, which is pretty neat. They're big. They make your runners big. If you play like this on a runner, you have a 35 and a 35 runner, which is pretty cool. Here we have Gentle Smile Dia Kurosawa. If you have one or fewer other characters, this gains 1000 power, and the ability, the character facing this card cannot move to another position on the stage. So this is an anti-runner. It's a 3500A, so it's big, it can probably live, or at least trade with an oversize that your opponent plays. So it can count as a plussing 0, and it stops your opponent's runners, so you can just kill their runner and they don't get their plus, which is really nice. Really nice. This one's blue. We'll see another one in a minute that's yellow. Not there. We'll see another one in a minute that's yellow. The color is one of the biggest differences. Note that this one requires you to have one or fewer other characters. So you can't really, like, tri-field with this to get a lot of attacks at 0, which is a potential downside. Also, if you play your Brainstorm down at 0, that counts as your other characters. You can't have two attackers if you play a Brainstorm. Next, we have Happy Party Train Dia Kurosawa. This is just a bottom deck bomb with no other effect. So, if you really want a bomb that removes cards and does not let on-death effects trigger, this is your card. That's all this is here for. Here's the other anti-runner, Tears of a Fallen Angel Yoshiko Tsushima. You cannot play event cards and backup from your hand. Largely irrelevant, because we don't have too many of those in the deck anyway. And the other effect is the character facing this card cannot move to another position on the stage. And this is a 0/0 3500 inherent. So this one you can tri-field with, which is good. Tri-fielding lets you push damage, lets you build stock, etc. This one's yellow. So this one I think is better in pretty much any situation except where you need the blue. At level 1, I have this card listed as an attacker, but this is also, I guess, could probably be utility. Aozora Jumping Heart Mario Hara. So on play, you look at the top card of your deck, put it on top or bottom. So again, another card that lets you see your trigger, which is, as I've said, important in this deck. When this attacks, it gains X power until end of turn. X is 1000 multiplied by the number of other music characters you have. So on a full board, this attacks for 7000. On a almost full board, it attacks for 6000, which is still pretty big for a level 1 that has, like, utility effects. And the third effect is when this becomes reversed, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's level 2 or higher, you can return this to your hand for free. So it recurs itself. It can plus. As I said, a lot of these decks want to run very low counts of zeros. Part of the reason is so that you can play more 2 and higher for this to hit on, and give you free pluses, which is really good. Also note that when it gets reversed, it top checks, so that's more information on what the top card of your deck is. Next we have Mijuku Dreamer Yoshiko Tsushima. This is just a 1/155, and it cannot be reversed if the character across from it is cost 0 or lower. So this stops bombs. This stops 1/0 advantage combos that need to reverse. So like Aaron can't kill this. All of the Sunshine cards that had to reverse that I showed you, especially like Chica, can't kill this. It just can't be bombed by other things. So this is good, especially if you're dealing with lots of on-reverse combos. This can just stop those in their tracks. If you're not really dealing with them, or you can't also protect your other lanes, this isn't as good, because then they just get their combos there. But this will generally stick around until your opponent plays a costed character. So that's pretty cool. Here we have the level 2 that, this is the bond target for the Hanamaru Saver, and the change, or sort of like climax combo change thing target for the Koini Naritai Aquarium Ruby. So it's a 2/265, gains 500 for each of your other music characters. On play from hand, if you have 4 or more other music characters, you choose a music character in your waiting room and put it into your stock. So it's a 2/1 if you just hardcast it. If you play it from the change effect, it recoups the stock that you paid off of the climax combo. And at the beginning of all players' attack phase, if a card named Koini Naritai Aquarium Ruby Kurosawa, which is the level 1 that turns into it, is in your waiting room, this gains 1000 power and cannot be chosen by your opponent's effects until end of turn. So on a full board, this is a 2/285. it becomes a 95 if you have the Ruby in Waiting Room and hexproof. So it's a little bit over spec, but it also comes down for one fewer stock. So really it's like a 2-1 95 2-soul hexproof beater, which is pretty decent. It can come down at level 1, so they can't bounce it because it's hexproof. They have to like get rid of it main phase or something, or just reverse it. But then you have the Hanamaru Saver to keep it around. So it's really cool for like a field-based strategy. But you'd have to run the wind to do that if you want to be playing it at level 1. Alright, so moving into counters. So this is just any counter step interaction we have. First, we got the glamorous swimsuit figure, Kanan Matsuura. This is a 2k counter if you have a music character. Only 2ks to the character that's currently in battle. You can't split this. But yeah, it's just a blue 2k counter. We have new chairman Mario Hara. It's a 2-1 3k counter. And when you play it on stage from your hand, you draw a card, discard a card. So it's just a vanilla size backup with a utility effect if you ever want to put it on board or have to put it on board, which is pretty cool. We have the Aim to Shine Ruby Kurosawa, which is another 3k 2-1 backup. And when you play the backup, put the top X of your opponent's deck into his or her waiting room. Put the top X of your opponent's deck. I feel like it should say put the top X cards from your opponent's deck or something like that. Interesting. X is the number of music characters you have. Got a little sidetracked there. So if you have 5 characters on stage, you mill 5 off of your opponent's deck. If you have 4, you mill 4. Nothing too noteworthy this does other than being a vanilla backup. The mill can... if it pushes your opponent into refresh, that's about the best thing you can do with it, I think. Say they like trigger a climax, and then you want to push them into refresh before they have a chance to pay it out at like encore step or counter step or whatever. That's probably the best thing you can do with it. I can't think of anything else that's really like super impactful. And we have the Niceoodles. This is a 3-2 event counter. Choose one of your characters. That character gains 2,500 power until end of turn. Put the top card of your deck into your waiting room. If that card's level 1 or higher, deal 5 damage to your opponent. As I've said, we run very few zeros in these lists, so that is quite often going to be dealing 5 damage to your opponent. Which is pretty funny. Counter step, burn 5. I don't know that this is actually good enough to run, being a 3-2 that's not searchable, but, you know, it's neat. It's definitely neat. So here we have level 2 plays. So these are just going to be early plays, things you're putting on the board at level 2. Sort of like intermediate game plans between level 1 and your level 3. We have Chika Takami. On play, reveal top. If it's level 0, put it into your stock. Or level 0 or lower. It does have to be a character, so you can't put a climax in stock here. But it can potentially come down as a 2-0. And when it attacks, if the character across from it's level 3 or higher, it gains 6,000 power till end of turn. So it attacks for 13k against early plays. So it's a 0 stock sometimes. Early play killer, which is pretty neat. If you're playing it in these decks that don't play many zeros, you're likely going to be paying a stock for this most of the time. There are also a couple of early plays, notably like Fox, Darkness, stuff like that, that does get bigger than 13k that you might not be able to deal with this, since this isn't a bomb. This does actually need to reverse, and you're still open to like counter step and stuff. So it's not the strongest card, but it's an option. Here we have today's Ultimate Ragnarok, Yoshiko Tsushima. This card makes me feel things that I don't know what they are. Because of its first effect here. So on play from hand, you play rock, paper, scissors with your opponent until someone wins. And if you lose, all of your other characters get 2,000 power until end of turn. Which is... I don't want to play rock, paper, scissors, but you know, whatever. Other effect is a stock bomb, anti-change stock bomb. So when it becomes reversed, if the battle opponent's higher level than your opponent's level, you put that character into your opponent's stock, and then put the bottom card of their stock into their waiting room. So this can remove early plays, even apart from the power pump effect. But if you can remove an early play with this and power pump the rest of your board, that can be really beneficial for you sometimes. So this is just a good card, really. Here we have an early play option. Aozora Jumping Heart, Hanamaru Kunikita. The number of climax in your waiting room is 2 or less. This gets -1 level. On play, you heal. And when a card named Aozora Jumping Heart Hanamaru, which is a shot trigger, is placed on your climax area, if this card is in your center stage, choose up to 1 music character in your waiting room, put it in stock. This gains 3,000 power till the end of your opponent's next turn. So this becomes a 13-5, 13-5 attacker, 12-5 on defense until the end of your opponent's next turn. It regains 1 of the stock that you paid for it, so it's like a 3-1, 12-5 healer at level 2 if you early play it and resolve combo, which is pretty cool. This was really good with the first set. Now that we have better plays out of the second set, so it's not as good. You're only running this if you don't want to run the Mirai Ticket engine, which I think is wrong, but you could do like this with the Happy Party Train combo or whatever, I guess. So here we have the Mirai Ticket engine that I'm talking about. So Mirai Ticket Chika Takami. If there's a card named Mirai Ticket Riko Sakurauchi in your clock, this gets -1 level while in your hand. So that Riko is the 2-1 level assist hand filter from earlier. And auto, when this card is placed on stage from your hand, you may pay 1 stock. If you do, choose a card named Mirai Ticket Yo Watanabe in your waiting room and put it on any position of your stage. So that Yo is the other level 3 you can see down there, and we'll get to that, I guess not right here. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get there. So we have Koeni Naritai Aquarium, Yoshiko Tsushima. These are sort of level 3 plays. And that Yo is more of a level 3 play, I guess, in terms of where it's impactful. Yeah. Okay, so Yoshiko. On play, you can choose one of your opponent's characters, return it to their hand, and this gains 2,000 power. So you can remove things that might be troublesome or give your opponent counter steps. So this is cool against like Sword Art. If you don't want them to be able to play their anti-damage counter, you can return their character to hand, and then they don't have a counter step in that lane. The other effect is, on attack, pay 1, discard 1. All your music characters, including itself, get 500 power and 1 soul until end of turn. Sort of like Soul Pump and counter step evasion, I suppose. Not many matchups that it's useful in, but there are a couple. Here we have Aozora Jumping Heart Yo Watanabe. So this was, in my opinion, the best finisher out of the first set. So on play, you can choose a music character in your waiting room and return it to hand. This is really nice because you can just keep picking more copies of itself, so that you can fill your whole board with this, and resolve 3 combos. Second effect is on attack. If Aozora Jumping Heart Yo is in your climax area, which is the comeback trigger, you can pay 1 and discard a music character, which is easily done since you're salvaging a music character on play. You deal 1 damage to your opponent and heal 1. So it's really good damage swing. It also lets you clock yourself at your clock phase a lot, like on the turn you're going into these, since you know you're going to be able to heal it off with the climax combo. Here we have Koeni Naritai Aquarium Riko Sakurauchi. So this is on play, reveal top card of your deck. If it's music, you can deal damage to your opponent. So this is nice, sort of like, in addition to whatever finishers you might be playing. A, it lets you know the top card of your deck, which is still important in this. B, you can almost always hit the burn if you use your other cards that show you what the top card of your deck is. And it's extra damage that does not involve your actual attack phase. So you can do this main phase, and then use your other finishers during attack phase to get sort of extra damage instances in. The other fact is when this attacks or is frontal attacked, you can put the top card of your deck into your waiting room. If it's level 1 or higher, this gains 2,500, so just something to give it extra power, help it stay around. Next, we have Aozora Jumping Heart Kanan Matsuura. So on play, you draw a card, and this gains 2,000 power. On attack, you can pay 1 and discard a music character. You have to have another music character to put it. I don't know what kind of condition that is, but you heal 1 when you pay 1 and discard a music character. So it's similar to the Fox level 3, on attack heal. And climax combo with the gate trigger. Once per turn, when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, if the climax is in play, you can pay 3 to stand this card. So it's a restander. Restanders are cool, extra instances of damage. Downside here is that you do need to reverse. You're also not super big. You're like 12 with the climax in play. So that's not enormous. You also just lose out if your opponent has like maneuver gear, or they just empty their board beforehand, or like ghost counters or anything. So that's not too great. Next we have from the Trial Deck Plus, another restander. Now then, Where Shall We Go, Kanan Matsuura. So if all your characters are music, this gains 1,000, so it's 11k. And once per turn, during the turn that it's placed on stage, when the battle opponent becomes reversed, you can pay 3 and discard 1 to restand. So instead of needing the climax in play, you discard 1, and it's only during the turn you play it. But it doesn't require a climax, so you can play this sort of in any kind of top end. Getting into the extra booster finishers, we have Mirai Ticket Yoshiko Tsushima. So climax combo, when Mirai Ticket is placed on your climax area, which this is the same climax as the level 1 Dia combo, so it's still the return and still the gate. This gains 2,000 power, and the following ability, when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you can heal. The other effect is once per turn, during the turn this is placed on stage from hand, when damage dealt by this is cancelled, put the top card of your deck into your waiting room, deal X, where X is that card's level +1, so that's the Musashi style effect. So you get the Musashi finisher effect, and if you're playing the climax, you can potentially heal with it as well. Which is a good combination of effects to have. Musashis are good like secondary finishers anyway, so if they're also healing you, that's just really nice. The climax you can play in most builds, even if you're not playing the Dia level 1, but I think you definitely play this card like with the climax combo if you're playing the Dia level 1. So here we have the Mirai Ticket Yo Watanabe. So this is the one that works with the Chika and the Riko. It gives all of your other cards named Mirai Ticket Chika Takami plus 2,000 power. So when you do use the Chika's ability to bring this out of your waiting room at level 2, your Chikas are now 12Ks. And the other effect is, on attack, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's music, you deal X damage to your opponent, where X is that character's level. So this is just costless, on attack, uninteractable, extra damage instances. Which is really nuts, especially when you start doing this at level 2. And you have so many ways to check the top card of your deck to confirm that you're dealing, like, more than 0 damage. This is also why you skew towards playing more level 2s and 3s and fewer level 0s. So that this is just on average burning for really good numbers. And if you start doing this at level 2, you just accelerate your opponent through the game so fast. This card's just really good. Next we have Mijuku Dreamer, Riko Sakurauchi. So on play, this gains 500 times the number of music characters you have. On play, you can rest a standing character. Your opponent chooses a climax in their own waiting room, and they return all the rest of the cards in their waiting room, except that card, into their deck, and then they shuffle. So this is typically going to decompress your opponent. If it's not going to decompress them, you don't use it. But say your opponent has like 1 in 4 compression, and they have 10 cards in their waiting room, and only one of them's a climax. You play this, they can't put the climax back, so they just shuffle 9 clean cards back into their deck. That's pretty bad. That's if they were like 5 and 20, now they're 5 and 29. That took them from 1 in 4 to almost 1 in 6, which is a real hit on their compression. And it lets your extra damage instances really put in work and clean off your opponent. The last effect is kind of irrelevant, but you can discard a card to give a music character 25. Most of these builds don't have level 3s that need to reverse, so not too important. I guess that does like interact well with like the restanders and stuff though. Here we have Aim to Shine Dia Kurosawa. On play, if you have 4 or more other music characters, you can put the top card of your deck into your stock, and on play heal. So it's just a 3-1 healer if you have a full board. It's the cheapest healer. It's good blue fix, and yeah, that's about it. It's a one stock healer, so you're not spending too many resources on healing when you need to heal, and it's a blue color fix. So here are some sample deck lists using what I think are the best cards. I've got two lists here. So this first one is an Awazora Jumping Heart Chica deck, focused on the Chica level 1 combo. So for our level 0s, we're playing the... we're actually playing the Yo-Bomb in this list. I don't know that you always want to play the Yo-Bomb. That could be more Brainstorms or more anti-runners. But the Yo-Bomb is a nice utility card. Could also be Drop Searchers or anything like that. We're playing the Kanon Saver because it keeps our Yos alive when we do the Rico early play into Chica and Yo. The Kanon Matsuura capture stance can save our Yos if our opponent does kill them. We're playing the 3 colors at level 1. The blue isn't... Well, okay, so the blue and yellow are never really super important at the same time. You either play the blue to get your pluses, or you play the yellow to get hand filter. The red's really what you're aiming for at level 1. As far as our second climax, we're just playing the an empty comeback trigger, because comeback lets us hand sculpt easier. It helps us get the Rico. Really, you want 2 copies of the Rico in hand so you can clock 1 and then still put 1 on your board. So it helps us get 2 Ricos and a Chica in our hand on time. And it can help us grab our level 1 combo, or the Koine Naritai Aquarium rubies, or whatever we need when we need it. And in this list, we are playing the Rico Sakurauchi Brainstorm. Since we can play a couple more level 0s, since our stock souls can shove them into stock, sort of take away misses. And we have more cards that kind of want to be in the back row with the capture stance Kanons. So needing to rest 2 isn't a huge issue for this version of the deck. Here we have a Mijuku Dreamer Ruby deck. So you can see there's a lot more yellow in this list, and we're playing the yellow Brainstorm. We have the Drop Searchers. We have very similar level 1 lineup. We've just sort of traded the Chica for the Ruby. I think my list has actually changed a bit from this since I put this together. I'm currently playing 4 copies of the Mari level 1, I'm pretty sure, and we might have cut the backup. But this is the general idea. You have the anti-runner and the runner as 2 plussing zeros that are going to stick around. The anti-runner because it's 35, and the runner because it runs. So you can get away with running fewer zeros, because as long as you open 1, which you're still favored to do, even with only... this is 12. I think we might have cut to 11 at some point. You're still favored to open with a 0 after you mulligan and clock and draw. So having these plussing zeros, you can stay in the game. Until you hit level 1, then you can just play all your characters. You don't really have any stock requirements up until you hit level 2 and need to put down your Rico combo. We're still playing the empty comeback triggers because the early play sort of setup still does want us to have 2 Ricos in hand and the Chica, and our advantage is not selective anymore. So it's actually a little harder to get the early play set up in this build, but you make up for that like that sort of weakness of the deck by adding the strength of you no longer need to reverse to get your advantage, and you're able to push damage a lot harder because you have a +2 soul climax at level 1. You also just in general plus harder because you the ruby itself returns itself to hand. So you just have like lots of card advantage. So general meta placement for this deck. From the survey, everybody, the community, sort of in general, rated this. It came out to an 8.64, which put it in tier 1 as the 4th highest rated deck, and it has a projected representation of 12.8% for the fall season, which puts it at the 3rd highest, only behind Bang Dream and Attack on Titan, and just in front of Sword Art Online, which is actually pretty impressive. As far as matchups go, this deck doesn't really have any just actively bad matchups. Because of how uninteractive it is. So if decks can remove lots of early plays really fast, for like low cost, that's bad for this deck. But there's just not many decks in English that, if any, that do that well right now. Gurren Lagann will be the biggest one, because of the there's a blue 2/1 that sends all of both players' early plays to the bottom of their deck. That can prove a little troublesome for this. But until then, nothing really deals with boards of Chicas and Yos efficiently. And you have a +2 soul uninteractive combo, so you just sort of ignore whatever your opponent's really doing at level 1 and get your pluses anyway, and then transition into a really strong level 2 game, and a good level 3 game at just finishing out. So it does make the deck very powerful. Uninteractive decks have always been good in the game. So yeah, if you guys have any comments, think I'm wrong about which cards are good, how the deck's meant to be played, stuff like that, please let me know. I've sort of been flying through this. I don't want this to go too long. But thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'll have some more content out soon. We should be looking at probably Gurren Lagann next, since it comes out like in a week or so. But yeah. Thanks, and I'll talk to you guys later. Oh yeah. Here's this thing.